thinking about buying property in Colombia? Welcome to our video. We know the process might seem different from what you're used to in other countries, but don't worry. Today, we're gonna explain everything you need to know, step by step, so you can handle it safely, legally, and with confidence. We'll talk about the step-by-step legal process of buying property, how you can get an investor visa by purchasing real estate in Colombia, the taxes you will need to pay as a property owner, the different types of real estate investments based on your goals, and the best cities to invest in 2025. Let's get started. Why invest in Colombia in 2025? Did you know that you can buy property in Colombia with just a passport? Cities like Medellin, Bogotá, and Cartagena are on the radar for many investors, thanks to their opportunities in housing, tourist rentals, and commercial spaces. And yes, you can legally buy property in Colombia even if you don't live here. All you need is a valid passport, no Colombian visa required. Now let's get practical. The property purchase process in Colombia is different from what you might be used to. There are no licensed real estate agents or centralized listing platforms like an MLS, which means the same property can be listed by multiple agents, making the search confusing and sometimes risky. That's why having a lawyer involved from the start is essential, because your legal team can verify that the property is not under embargo or part of a pending inheritance succession process. The sellers have no ties to illegal activity, since in Colombia, even if the property is already in your name, it could be seized under extinción de dominio, asset forfeiture laws. The property is legally ready to be transferred, and that what you're being offered is exactly what you're actually receiving. But let's go step by step through the process. So first, we open an account or channel funds. The first thing is making sure that you can send your money legally to Colombia. You can open a bank account in the country or use a trusted currency broker like Acciones y Valores or Alianza Valores. This is key to registering your investment and avoiding problems with the government later. They will ask you for a report, they will ask you for a passport, proof of the origin of the funds, and sometimes a little patience. The process can take between 2 to 4 weeks. Second would be verify the property title. In Colombia, there is no escrow or title insurance like in other countries. So that's why it's essential for a lawyer to review the legal background of the property and seller. Are there mortgages, legal issues, extinción de dominio? All of that must be checked. Third, we'll have negotiate purchase terms. So this includes the price, payment method, delivery time, and special conditions. Your lawyer can help you close a fair agreement and protect your interests. And yes, if you don't speak Spanish, it's better to have someone represent you, and it shouldn't be your counterpart's attorney. And if you only have one real estate agent representing both parties' interests in the transaction, it might not be ideal to have their attorney to represent you as well. 4. Sign the sales contract. Once everything is clear, the contract is signed. The document has legal weight, so make sure it's well drafted. 5th, closing and notarization. Here you pay the remaining money, sign the deed, and cover notary and registration costs. 6th, registering the deed and final cost. After signing at the notary, the final step is officially registering the property in your name. This registration is done at the Oficina de Instrumentos Públicos and is what gives legal validity to your purchase. Once registered, the Certificado de Libertad y Tradición is issued, which basically says this property is now yours. Now, at this stage, several administrative costs also come into play, which you need to be aware of. Many buyers are surprised with these values at the end, so here's the breakdown. The associated closing costs for the buyer would be notary fees around 0.29% of the property value. The registration fees are approximately 0.98%. The beneficence tax, it's about 0.6% of the value. Document authentication, for example, promise contracts and powers of attorney and certificates, and other special costs like mortgage cancellations, family equity processes, or additional notary steps. These values represent the buyer's share, which is typically around 50% of the total closing costs. The seller is also responsible for a similar amount, usually paid at the time of the closing. That said, everything is negotiable and should be clearly outlined in the purchase contract. The important thing is that you're not caught by surprise and that you understand this final step is what gives you full legal security over your investment. Now, it's important to note that buying a property in Colombia doesn't end with signing the deed. So far, we've shown you the step-by-step to legally purchase a property in Colombia. But if your intention is to stay and live or generate income from that investment, there are other key aspects you can't overlook. As an owner, whether Colombian or foreign, you must pay annual tax called Impuesto Predial. The rate varies, but typically is between 0.3 and 1.6% of the property's catastral value. This depends on factors like location, a ranch in Antioquia versus an apartment in Bogota, property use, residential or commercial, the municipal rules where it's located. But beyond legal requirements, there's another important factor to consider, especially if you're thinking long-term: tax benefits, tax incentives for investors. Did you know that there are tax benefits for certain real estate projects? If you develop shopping centers, hotels, offices, or warehouses in cities with more than 200,000 inhabitants, you can access a 9% income tax rate for 10 years. And if you do a similar project in smaller municipalities, that benefit extends for 20 years. There are also incentives for theme parks, ecotourism, and marinas in smaller towns. 9% income tax for 20 years. Our recommendation: if you're thinking of developing or investing big, make sure to consult with local experts about these exceptions. You can save a lot of money planned well. And now, the question is, how can I start investing? What types of real estate investments can you make? So listen, the great news is you don't need to buy an entire building to enter the Colombian real estate market. There are options for different investor profiles, from those who want to start small to those aiming for ambitious projects. Here are the most common and effective ways to put your money to work in Colombian real estate. First, real estate investment funds. If you don't want to buy directly, you can invest in real estate through collective funds. In Colombia, these are called Fondos de Inversión Colectiva, similar to the REITs internationally. These funds invest in different property types, and you can participate as an investor from more accessible amounts. Best part, they're traded on the stock exchange, so you have flexibility to enter and exit. Second, real estate crowdfunding. If you're just starting or don't want to commit large sums from the beginning, crowdfunding might be your path. Platforms like BrickSafe allow several investors to pool capital and invest in projects collectively. It's a great option if you want diversification or to test the market with low risk. 3. Strategic partnerships. Joint ventures. If you want a more substantial investment but aren't familiar with the market, partnering with local developers might be ideal. Often, foreigners team up with Colombian developers or entrepreneurs to invest together. This shares risk, access better opportunities, and gives someone who understands the terrain. 4. Vacation or residential rental properties. And of course, the classic option: buy a property to rent it out. For this, you have several alternatives depending on your profitability goals. And if you do want to own property directly, there's always the classic route: buying to rent. For this, you have several alternatives depending on your profitability goals. Airbnb is only one way to make money in the Colombian real estate market. Here are more options. What kind of rental can you offer in Colombia? The rental market in Colombia is diverse and offers opportunities for both short-term profitability and stable long-term income. These are the main options. First, short-term rentals like Airbnb. Ideal if you're in a tourist zone like El Poblado in Medellín, Getsemaní in Cartagena, or El Rodadero in Santa Marta. But watch out, many buildings in Colombia have internal rules requiring a minimum of 30 days for rentals. Before buying, make sure the property allows short-term rentals or you could get into legal trouble. Second, long-term rentals. This is the traditional model. Monthly or annual contracts, can be residential or commercial, targeting locals or expats in Colombia. If you plan to rent to a foreigner, note that they usually need a foreigner ID to sign a legal lease. Third, commercial rentals. If you buy offices or commercial spaces in strategic zones, you can rent them to businesses. They're more stable by requiring an analysis of location and demand. Fourth, share rentals or co-living. A growing trend, especially in Medellin and Bogota. Spaces where multiple people share housing, like student residencies or for digital nomads. Profitable, well-located, and increasingly in demand. Which is the best option for you? Well, that depends on your risk profile, budget, and time availability. That's why the most important thing is get advice before signing or investing. And once you've defined how you want to invest, the next big question is Medellin, Cali, or Bogota? Where should you invest in Colombia in 2025? Colombia is diverse, and its real estate market reflects that. Investing in Bogota is not the same as in Medellin or Cali. Each city has its own pace, pricing, and advantages. That's why it's key to know which place best fits your investment based on what you're looking for. Buying property in Colombia can definitely be a good opportunity, but it can also be complex. At Nexo Legal, we'll help you make sure that your investments are done properly and without risk. Write to us today and leave your questions in the comments.